Hey guys, Seth here and welcome back to Stormworks. In today's episode of Stormworks I'm going to be continuing on the design of what I've named the Admiral class. And I want to adjust the hull quite a bit. Because over the last week I've been thinking about the hull shape, I've been thinking about how I want the ship to set up. I'm not quite going to tear down the entirety of the hull, especially since I already have this large engine installed. But I do want to change the shape of the hull. Because I think there can be some improvements made there. So it's time to take off the bow part that I have set up. And my plan is to use those wedge parts that I originally wasn't going to use. Because, as somebody pointed out, they do look better. And I think I might be able to make them work. Although it won't be terribly easy to do so. And it might not result in the most efficient of ships. That's the problem. If that turns out to be the case, I can always just add more engine power to the ship. Now, let's first go up a few touches, and then I can start adding the panels that I need. This whole part's probably going to get removed. It's just more of an overview of the shape of what I try to build. One of the videos that I was watching pointed out is that it works really quite well if you have a bow that just tapers off, but in more ways than one. Because if I do it like this, sure enough, it'll look great, but it also gets quite a bit of water resistance, which is not really what I want. So I'll probably just start tapering it off a bit more. And by doing so, hopefully this is the plan. The first part is going to cut through the waves. And then the second part is going to connect to the rest of the hull. So it's going to make sure that the rest of the ship widens out without, hopefully, causing too much water resistance. Now, I've never really found money to be that much of an issue in the campaign or in the career mode. So I don't really expect it to be that much of an issue now. At least, such is my hope. It doesn't necessarily have to be true, but such is my hope. Alright, so these parts over here. And then I'll need another one of these. Set that up here. Rotate that, and then close this part of the hull up. These blocks can all get removed. These were just placeholders. Another one of these highly tapered bows is that the ship sometimes dips forward when you do it, because the bow doesn't have a lot of buoyancy in it. That is potentially a problem, because I don't really want this bow to start deep inside the water. When it does that, it's going to mean that the ship just dips forward, and that is quite the opposite of what you want, because then the ship just doesn't get the kind of hydrodynamic shape that you want. Right, down here, I want to have a pyramid 2x4. I'm always fighting this thing. There we go. And now I need to find a way to connect this. This is usually where I run into trouble. Because this shape just doesn't quite exist, if I'm not mistaken. I can have a 1x2 here. And that 1x2 sort of helps. But then it's this part. This connecting thing. Here, 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 here. I'm not sure if a 2x2 exists. That's a 2x4. Yeah, hold on. Is this it? That's it. Sort of. No, not really. No, it is the right block. There we go. Hopefully this will do it. It's a bit too much. Yeah, I'm going to have to take off the entirety of the side of the hull. So, as it turns out, I'm pretty much rebuilding most of the ship anyway. Clear that off, and then I can have my wedge parts. The 1x2s go over here. All the way back. Well, I have to have a look at the stern as well. Especially these parts. Well, these parts might stick. Let's see. Remove that. Wedge 1x4. Yeah, this is probably going to have to get redone. At least somewhat. Because if I can now use a 1x... maybe a 2x4. Like that. Oh. And then a... what's that? A 2x2 pyramid? Over here. And then I would need a 2x4 wedge, inverse pyramid here. Another wedge. Like that. Remove these. Not that I spent the majority of the previous episode working on this ship or something. No, it's fine. Let's see, another one here. How close do I want this thing to taper off? Could I put two of these large engines side by side? I think I can. Yeah, screw it. We're already redesigning the majority of the ship. Why not go with the rest of it as well? So the whole gearboxing system, propulsion, everything, it's going to have to go. Remove the props. Just remove the whole stern. And then these things. These wedges are no longer required. Or, sorry, not wedges, pyramids. Now I need to start thinking how I want the propulsion to go. They don't need to be too low into the water or they'll cause issues. Because if they are too low into the water, it's going to push the bow up way too high. When that happens, the whole ship's going to flip over. These need to be 1x2 wedges. Alright, first I'm going to close off the ship. Up here, remove that. These are okay. These can just be straight blocks. They don't necessarily have to be another tapering layer. Then over here, this one, that one, not that one. This and this. And now I can go with wedges. Now, what I'm going to do first is spawn the ship in after I'm completing this part. Because I want to know how far it dips forward. It means I'm going to have to add more weight to the stern, probably. Just in order to balance it out. I also hope that the ship isn't going to be listing too much. Let's see. I still have a flashlight, but it doesn't work too well. Oh, we have a leak. Not a small one either. I left the whole stern open. And not just the stern. Too fast, Stealth. Don't rush it. Here too. So I just basically spawned in a leaky bucket. No wonder it didn't really want to float. Maybe even the opposite. I'm surprised how well it floated considering all the, well, not the damage to the ship, but how poorly I built it. Oh, these are 2x2s, aren't they? 2x1s. Yeah, that's it. 2x1, 2x1. Done? No, there's still a hole here. Spawn. Nope. I missed a part. Here. Better? Better. It's not too bad. It does seem to list over the port a bit, but I still have to add a lot of weight to that ship. Superstructure, engines, all that stuff still has to get added in. Now what I could do is change the design to have another wedge here, like this. That would make the ship a bit wider, but it might not fix the issues of displacement. Still, let's try it. I hope the stability isn't, going to be impaired too much. Yeah, I guess this is pretty much the fastest way of tapering it off. Like that. And then make this part go away. A few more wedge parts here. 1, 2. Close that off. And here. Start. Buoyancy shouldn't be a problem with this thing. And once I get some more mechanics, like hydraulics, I'll be able to just balance the ship out using an auto-stabilization feature. Right, time to add the engines back in. This time around, it's actually going to be both of these large ones. There we go. Probably not all the way back there, though. Because then I cannot add any kind of propulsion. These things are heavy. They're 400 points of weight. Or mass. Not terrible. Not terrible. Okay, good start. Then, how do I want to drive this ship? Like, what sort of propulsion do I want to use? Ideally, put the power not exactly in line with the center of mass, but a bit under it, so that the center of mass, or that the bow gets pushed up. So, pipes. I don't quite how this looks yet, but I can fix that later. I just need to get the propulsion sorted. I think 2 large ones will do. Maybe these are too high in the water. We'll just have to see. And then we need a rudder. Probably going to go with 1 double rudder here. Oop. So 1 here and 1 here. That should allow the ship to turn pretty quick. Ideally, I want fluid pumps, fluid jets, but those are pretty expensive. That's another 20 points that I would need. It's not really 20 points that I'm currently eager to spend on it. So that's not quite going to happen yet. Might be an upgrade for this ship later on. Right, let me just sort this thing out and I'll be right back with you. Right, welcome back to the ship. I have now added all the piping that I currently need to the engines. That means that I have combined the 2 large engines into 1 propulsion shaft that goes into 1 gearbox. The gearbox immediately translates it into a 9:5 ratio. Then it goes into the generator assembly and also splits off into another gearbox, which will then, when activated, go to another 9 to 5. And these are just setup ratios as I have them. I'll need to fine tune these in a bit. Once there, it goes into the clutch, and from the clutch, it goes into the props. Now there is a few more items, or there are a few more items that I need to fix, and that's fuel. And that's where I ended the previous episode. Because in the previous episode, I said, you know what, I'm going to need a custom fuel tank. And at that point, I didn't have it. But then, off screen, I did a mission, and I can now build my own custom fuel tanks. Which is really quite simple to do. You just make a box, just like that. Then you put a fluid spawner in it. One over here. And I usually put my fluid meter on top of it to figure out how much fuel is in that tank. And then from here, we pipe the fuel directly into the ship, or directly into the engines. For longer stretches, you will need a fuel pump, but this is such a short stretch that I don't need to do that. Pipe. There. One thing that you can do, and it is something that I'm going to do in this case, is put a fuel valve in. The fuel valve either allows it or disallows it to transfer fuel to the engines. Now this is a dead man switch, which means that if, and I'm not sure if I have a player sensor, yeah I do. If no player is aboard the ship, if no player is detected aboard the ship, it's going to put the ship... Oh, actually, maybe a clutch is easier. Hold on, what is this output? Right. Never mind. We have... What was it? The valve... Fuel cutoff? What did I call that one? I did make a custom microcontroller for it. But I have a lot of microcontrollers at this point. Winch, warnings, hydrofoils. I'm not sure if I still have it, but I must have saved it somewhere. Auto gearing, no. Right. In that case, I'm going to build one. Microcontroller. Dead man switch. So what this will do is cut off the engine or cut off the fuel that goes to the engines when there are fewer than one players detected. So this is input from player sensor. And then I have another one that goes out. So that's a number, no, sorry, an on-off output. Output to fuel valves. There. I can make it a bit smaller. Like that. Logic. I need a less than. Because if this thing, and this is how it works, if A, so the first value, is less than the B, then do something. If A is less than B, then send an on signal. Or send an off signal, rather. Actually, in that case, I need to do it in reverse. Which means that if there is more than one player, and you can add a constant number for this, you don't really have to, because if you don't add anything, it's going to be 0. So the way that this will work is a sort of inverted deadman switch. If I'm aboard, then I get detected. And when I get detected, the ship goes, aha, there's more than one player. So A is greater than B. And that means that the fuel valves are allowed to be open. There is allowed, or there is power allowed to the ship. Alternatively, I can do this with the clutch. And that would keep the engines running, but that would also mean that the engines are potentially going to drain all the fuel. No, this is probably better. Dead man switch. I'm not sure if it's dead man or dead mans. But here we go. Need one of those. I then need a player sensor. And let's just put that over here. Player sensor. Let's set this thing up for what it needs to detect. Hemisphere, yes. Mode, detect players. Range, I'd say 7 meters. So the player sensor detects something, detects a number of players. And if that number is greater than, then these fuel valves are allowed to open. So once they detect a player, this thing goes, yep, there's a player aboard. Good, we're moving. You're allowed to do something. You can also use this with an output, like it's just an on-off. Oh, hold on, that's way easier. I built a whole microcontroller for nothing. Fine. If a player sensor is detected, then, or if a player is detected by the sensor, great. Then you can open the fuel valves. If not, don't. It's that straightforward. Right, and then we have air intakes. Now, where the air intakes are going to come is pretty dependent on how exactly I build up the rest of the ship. I'm thinking that I'm going to need a bit more deck space here. If this is the deck... Hold up, let's just save it. She's still pretty far above the water, and even the props are too high. I might need to lower those a block. Otherwise it's not going to work very well. Okay, so the ship already is quite far above the water. That's fortunate. That means I can take some parts of the deck off and just use that as a bit of an inset deck, like this. This is why I usually just close up my hull first and then try to figure out how much water clearance I have. Because if it turns out that that's more than enough, then I can just remove parts of the deck. Otherwise you're going to end up with a ship, or potentially end up with a ship that's top heavy. And when that happens, the ship has a tendency to roll over, which is not really to anybody's benefit. Least of all mine. Oops. These things like this. Remove this. Now I'm gonna beautify it a little bit. So that means I'll use the wedges. I'm just gonna set these up in mirror. Like that. Now let's close this part up to see if the ship is still buoyant enough. Because I did take off some parts of it. Looks like I still have enough clearance, especially if I'm adding a superstructure. Okay. Now, is the engine too tall or not? Maybe, maybe not. Let's check. Can I continue on with this deck? Yes, I can. Good. So I can just about fit those engines underneath that part. Or underneath that part, underneath the deck. Oops, that was one too many. Like that, and like that. Check again. Still functional. Still workable. We can continue. How do I get on this ship? That's a pretty important item. How do I get on the ship? Because I have this whole slanted hull thing, which is nice. But at the same time, it doesn't really allow for any ladders aboard the ship. If I do it over here, I'm probably going to get minced up by the props. Which is generally not great for your health. I want an angled pipe here. And one here. Can that prop fit there, or is it too close to the hull? It can fit there. Yeah, okay. This part, turn that around, there, done. Okay, so the props are a little lower now, good. Superstructure. No, not yet, because what I was doing... Jesus, I get distracted, I'm sorry. What I was doing is working on how to get aboard the ship. I could just make a small rescue zone here. So remove those. Add a ladder. It goes all the way up to the side. Now, I know this is not pretty, but I can still fix that, because I can use a couple of the 1x4 wedges, or inverse pyramids. Like that. And like that. I hope it doesn't cause too much water interference here. Does that run deep enough? Yeah, that will do. Okay, good. Then I can round it a little. Although that does stand out from the hull. I would then have to remove these parts as well. Add another one of these. And then a 1x4 pyramid. There, here. And then I could add the wedges again. There. Okay, so that's how I get on the ship. Then how do I control the ship? Ideally from a command position somewhere here, where there's still enough room to walk around. So let's say that we have a bit of clearance here. Like that. That. And then back. This is also going to be the cabin space. I will just jump on the deck first to see if I can actually walk around here. I need to know if I can fit as a character. Let's have a look. Yeah, I can fit here. The part over here can still fit a fluid cannon, but I don't have it researched yet, so at the moment I cannot work it yet. I cannot put that on. A few more of these. And then I want to see if I can make it a bit of a, well, not so much a stealth design, but, you know, just going up a little like this. The problem with that is that it causes a pretty narrow control seat. And by doing that, I make the bridge very narrow. Possibly. Because then, let's say that this is your deck area. No, that won't work. It's too narrow. This is usually where I run into trouble. How do I make this part look good? This is usually where stuff gets tricky for me. Because if I just go up with a straight superstructure, it won't look good. But I cannot go up like that either, because I kind of worked myself into a trap. So it's going to have to be something like this. And then over here is going to have to taper off again. Come on, that way, please. This space over here is probably going to be wasted. I can't use it. It's not where you can put passengers. It's not really where you would want to put any kind of control system either. Well, control systems actually could work. So use a microcontroller of sorts. That might work. No, I don't like that. I'm just going to have to continue with this part until I'm satisfied with the height. Now, I won't finish the construction of this ship in this episode. That'll be definitely sure. That means that if you have any good suggestions on how to finish this ship off, please let me know down below in the comment section. I am all up for improving my ship design, and I'll probably need your help for that. Spin that round here. There, I made it this tall because now I still have enough room to walk around here underneath the deck. This is now 175, which is also the height of characters. It does, however, make for a pretty tall steering cabin. And I think that that's the way it's going to be, because until I get access to hatches and doors, I cannot use the lower compartment yet. Which sucks, but that's pretty much the way that it is. Now that would mean that this thing just goes back. And yes, I will add windows and such to this later, don't worry. That goes to here, to here. And then I would still have the bridge on top of this. Damn, that's going to be one tall bridge. Because then I would use a couple of these things. I usually go for 3. I'm just spitballing here right now. And then I would use windows, but you don't have windows under that angle. Oh, never mind. That does not look good. What if I go for a design like this? And now I'm suddenly tapering off different, but it might just work. Turn, block. I'm really far above my own bow, though. If I would have windows here, just a couple of large angled windows, or ideally actually the corner windows, because I generally like the look of those a lot better. It creates this sort of outward pointing window structure, if that's making sense. Unfortunately, I run into trouble here. I just want to see how much I can actually see from the bow of the ship, if I were to go for this design. Another part that I don't like is that you then look straight at all of these window angles. At these, well, not window angles, at the, what you call that? You know, the support beams for the windows, that stuff. Then I have a seat up here, something like that. Then we taper off again. Now it's too wide. So I then have to change that up into the window structure that we can find with this one, the corner window. Alright, I already have to do that here. That thing is usually a little finicky. What I would really love for the designers to add is more custom windows. Because that would really make it a lot more easy to get a nice bridge shape. Gotta make sure I add some ladders here so I can just get to the bridge and see how much I can actually see. Still impressed with the jumping capabilities of this character. Yeah, I can just about see my own bow, but not by much. Not by much. I think she's too top heavy. She's definitely too top heavy. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. That whole thing's gonna come off right now. Center of mass is almost at water level at this point. Yeah, hell no. I need to reduce that center of mass. So I'll probably have to add a few more weight blocks to the bottom. Make sure that the weight goes down. If not, then this thing will flip over in heavy weather. Bow's a little heavy relative to the stern, but I think I can get away with it. What if I were to just use windows here? Yeah, that's the problem. There are no windows for angles like these. Because they added 1x1 window edges, but what they have not yet added are 1x2s and 1x4s. And this doesn't work, because it just doesn't look right. If you want to switch that up, I would have to change this design and this. And I would suddenly be making a ship like that. Or a shape like that. Let's say I do that. Window, like that. Another angled window here. Here, like that. And then just this combines to here. Add another one of those finicky little things. Nope, doesn't want to sit yet. Try again. Yes, no, maybe? Yes, there. That's it. This is probably a lot better, vision-wise. And then I might not use a seat, but I would use a helm. Would that be better? Whoa! Guess I get to test my ladders right now. That'd be quite a bit better. Ship wouldn't be as tall, and I could still have a radar mast and such on the top of that. Yeah, this is probably a little better, but I don't quite like the way that it tapers off like that. Right, well, plenty to engineer, but not in this episode. I hope you guys have some suggestions so that I can improve the design of the ship. Leave those down below in the comment section. Ideally, link to a picture or a Steam Workshop file or something like that, where I can see what is what and what needs to change. So let me know down below in the comment section, and otherwise, I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next week for the next episode. See you then.